Kardama Muni praised the beauty and the qualification of Devahuti in different ways. Devahuti was actually the ornament of all ornamented beautiful girls. A girl becomes beautiful by putting ornaments on a body, but Devahuti was more beautiful than the ornaments. She was considered the ornament of the ornamented beautiful girls. Demigods and Gandharvas were attracted by her beauty. Kardama Muni, although a great sage, was not a denizen of the heavenly planets. But it is mentioned in the previous verse that Vishwavasu, who came from the heaven, was also attracted by the beauty of Devahuti. Besides her personal beauty, she was the daughter of the emperor Swayambhuva and the sister of King Uttanapada. Who could refuse the hand of such a girl? Text 19. Atho bhajisye samayena sadvim yavat tejo vibriyadatmano me atho dharman paramahamsya mukhyan shukla proktan bahumanye avihim shran. Translation: Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Therefore I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife on the condition that she bears semen from my body. I shall accept the life of devotional service accepted by the most perfect human beings. That process was described by Lord Vishnu. It is free from envy. Purport: Kardama Muni expressed his desire for a very beautiful wife to Emperor Swayambhuva and accepted the emperor's daughter for marriage. Kardama Muni was in the hermitage practicing complete celibacy as a brahmachari, and although he had the desire to marry, he did not want to be a householder for the whole span of his life because he was conversant with the Vedic principles of human life. According to Vedic principles, the first part of the life should be utilized in brahmacharya for development of character and spiritual qualities. In the next part of life, one may accept a wife and beget children, but one should not beget children like cats and dogs. Kardama Muni desired to beget a child who would be a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should beget a child who can perform the duties of Vishnu. Otherwise there is no need to produce children. There are two kinds of children born of good fathers. One is educated in Krishna consciousness so that he can be delivered from the clutches of Maya in that very life. The other is a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and teaches the world the ultimate goal of life. As will be described in later chapters, Kardama Muni begot such a child Kapila, incarnation of the Personality of Godhead who enunciated the philosophy of Sankhya. Great householders pray to God to send a representative so that there may be auspicious movement in the human society. This is one reason to beget a child. Another reason is that a highly enlightened parent can train a child in Krishna consciousness so that the child will not have to come back again to this miserable world. Parents should see to it that the child born of them does not enter the womb of a mother again. Unless one can train a child for liberation in that life, there is no need to marry or produce children. If the human society produces children like cats and dogs for the disturbance of the social order, then the world becomes hellish, as it has in this age of Kali. In this age, neither parents nor children are trained. Both are animalistic and simply eat, sleep, mate, defend and gratify their senses. This disorder in social life cannot bring peace to human society. Kardama Muni explains beforehand that he would not associate with girl Devahuti for the whole duration of his life. He'd simply associate with her until she had a child. In other words, sex life should be utilized only to produce a nice child, not for any other purpose. Human life is especially meant for complete devotion to the service of the Lord. That is the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. After fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in perfectional Paramahamsa stage. Paramahamsa refers to the most highly elevated perfection stage of life. There are 4 stages within sannyas life, and Paramahamsa is the highest order. Srimad Bhagavatam is called Paramahamsa Samhita, the treatise for the highest class of human beings. The Paramahamsa is free from envy. In other words, even in the householder stage of life, there is competition and envy, but since the activities of the human being in the Paramahamsa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotion service, there is no scope for envy. In the same order as Kardama Muni, about 100 years ago, Thakur Bhaktivedanta also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy of and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. By his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples. Thus ends Bhaktivedanta purport. So Kardama Muni is expressing his heart and is very happy with the situation. And the way he sees the situation is that somehow on his own accord, without even his effort, devotee has come of her own accord to seek his hand. And now that he has accepted her, Kardama Muni expresses his great fortune in getting a wife like devotee. He is saying that those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of Goddess of Fortune cannot even perceive her. In other words, seeing something beautiful in this world also is not something like this, extremely beautiful, is not by accident even. Even to see, one has to have karma, even to see. So by those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of Goddess of Fortune cannot even perceive her. So obviously all these souls that are there in this Leela, they are not ordinary souls. We know that Swayambhuva Manu is not ordinary. Therefore his daughter is not ordinary. You know Kapila, we know Kardama Muni is not ordinary, very austere. So their perception is completely at a transcendental level. Why it is at a transcendental level? Because even though they are in this material world, they follow the principles of cultured living in a human society. A cultured living in the human society. Not culture cannot be any culture. It has to be the culture based on Sanatana Dharma. It's a culture based on the transcendental principles of progressive spiritual elevation. That is how everybody in the Vedic society, every human being in a Vedic society is supposed to conduct his life according to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So on practically every tiny detail, how one should conduct oneself as a brahmachari, as a grahastha, as a sannyasi, as a paramahamsa, how one should conduct oneself is also delineated in the Guru Sadhu by the three sources, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But nowadays, it's not at all like that. My basis for action, my basis of perception, my basis of response to perceptions in this world, totally it is speculative. And it is based on immediate sense gratification and not based on internal principles of dharma, internal principles of gradual elevation to Krishna consciousness. It's not. It's totally arbitrary, as Prabhupada is saying here, that modern life is such that whether it is the parents or children, in this age neither parents nor the children are trained, both are animalistic and simply eat, sleep, mate, defend and gratify their senses. So these urges are there. These urges were there, eating, sleeping, mating, defending urges were there even in the Vedic times. Eternally exist in this material world. In human form of life, these four urges are there. But these urges, the way these urges were responded to by a cultured or a person who is spiritually elevated, is different from the way today people are responding. People are, if an urge comes, what should I do? How should I respond? Why is that? Because Prabhupada says that this eating, sleeping, mating, defending, you don't have to ask for it. It is a force. It is a force that is there in the body. You don't need to train anybody how to eat, how to sleep, how to mate, how to defend. No training happens. Suppose a child is not taught, a baby is not taught how to eat. It's not that it won't know how to eat. But how to respond to these four forces, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, it does not come automatically. It has to be trained. Either in this life it has to be trained, or as samskara it has to come from your past life. It has to be there, it has to be received. Training means you receive, you do not know, somebody puts in it, trains you how to do it. So where is that training nowadays? Absolutely no training for anyone on these things. Because our culture is still intact to some extent, Indian culture, family culture, largely family culture in India, if it is there, if it is still intact, some of these principles are still there. What to do, what not to do. When you confront yourself with forces of eating, sleeping, mating and defending. And not only that, there is no directed training for the population. It is not simply absence of training that is creating the problem in the modern world. It is a presence of active force of Maya in this Kali Yuga. The presence of active Maya means that you have your urges, eating, sleeping, mating and defending. But the outside environment is handled by Maya Devi to agitate our senses more and more. There is a conscious force. This is the destiny. This is the way the life goes on in this yuga after yuga. So in Kali Yuga this will happen. In Kali Yuga she will go all out. Not only within us, she will go all out externally also. Take for instance eating. Eating is a force, is a vega of the tongue. So, according to Vedic system, you have to control your tongue. You eat what is permitted to eat, number one. Then you have to offer to the Lord and eat, number two. And number three is quantity, how much you eat. So there is guidelines, you have to eat prasadam, that atyahara, you should not eat more than what you need. A cultured person actually goes according to these principles. These principles are not principles for the sake of, without any reasons. There are reasons also. There are health reasons also. Prabhupada says all diseases are coming because of two things: overeating and lack of cleanliness. One place Prabhupada says all diseases are coming from this, even overeating. Overeating causes diseases. Because you are taking more than what you are supposed to take. So it results in so many diseases. The obesity is the largest disease now all over the world, obesity. It's affecting everywhere. Why is it? Now go back to the environment. The environment, Maya Devi is very active. You can know that there is a force actually pulling the living entities into more and more sense gratification, which is outside you. At a macro level, there is a force that is operating. That is Maya Devi's force. The evidence is, so many research institutions food research institutions are creating so many products. They are studying so deeply what titillates the tongue, which chemical if I add in this item, they will come how they will come again and again to the shop. Fully, they have studied this and they are creating new, continuing the research. Sugar. Actually, there was no white sugar at all, maybe 100 years back. There was no white sugar at all. Now the research has gone to such a point that this sweetness in food, they discovered there is something called a bliss point. That means it's a terminology now. It's a bliss point. Food researchers, there's a bliss point. All fast food manufacturers, they do this. They know this. Bliss point means, they saw that sugar, if you put more and more, they get more and more addictive. The taste is going on increasing. Then the research found out that beyond a certain point, that is not helping the tongue. That point is called bliss point. So the amount of sugar they put is according to this bliss point. Bliss point will be different for different products because it will be combined with other tastes. So the bliss point. So it's a big scam. If you go into a shop and pick up so many packed items, how without your knowing that there is this white sugar in that? Get addicted. And they say that sugar, that white sugar, see, because it is refined, it is very, very sweet. So they found out, and so they'll get you addicted. And that sugar is what? There is a sugar, there is glucose, lactose, fructose. So there are 3-4 kinds of sugars. Sugar are reduced to various kind of glucose, fructose. They say this fructose, the dosage of fructose in our early days was only from some very rare fruits. Now fructose is manufactured. This is the cause of obesity. Fructose does not digest, it goes and builds up in the belly. In all the muscles it builds up. So you may be innocent, but you have to have knowledge. Maya is working. The whole, you go into a store and you pick up every item, you'll see most of the items have different kinds of, different forms of this sugar, which ultimately destroys the body, longevity, everything. So Maya, not only now mind, Maya is operating not in the sense object. Maya as a person is working in food industry, drug industry, fashion industry. All this industry, if you see, this is Maya's industries. And people are spoiling their life. So if we understand these things, at least we should be very, very careful what we should eat. Even for prasadam, what you should eat, what you should not eat. Just because your gulab jamun is very sweet, it's prasadam, I'll eat so much. So you will get both benefits. You will get prasadam benefit, you will get benefit of body also. Sugar benefit you will get. Which will disturb your devotion service later. So we should be very regulated in eating, sleeping, mating and defending on the principles of these scriptures. So see how Kardama Muni is responding, is dealing with the issue of marriage. There is nothing to be shy about it. It is God's creation. Krishna himself says, I am sex life according to regulative principles. But again, if one exceeds that regulation, then he is in problem. There is lobha, greed. For kama there are regulations. As per dharma, some regulations are given. Kama is there in everybody. It is there. So we have guidance how to do it. Individually, socially, culturally, all these are nothing which is not known. It is in the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, the source for these kind of things. So in our modern day, when we are living in this Kali Yuga, we should identify what are the things which are introductions of Maya. Soft drinks is clearly introduction of Maya. Soft drink is one of the, how much research they do for that bliss point and all that. And they get people addicted to it. And then it is most dangerous thing for the health. Most dangerous thing for the health. Just see, they have all this knowledge. They even have knowledge it is dangerous, but nobody is stopping. Just like in every cigarette pack it says it's injurious to health, still the industry is continuing. But then little slow. Now it's not, definitely, because they put all those things and lot of activism over last 30 years. So all the cigarette factories are moving to some other products because it has come down. Why? Because they are seeing the ill effects of it. But then it takes some time. Some suddenly introduce this Coke is going on for how long? Coke, Pepsi, all these things. Very dangerous for the body. Every day if you drink, it's the most dangerous thing. The research findings are there. 20 years if you drink Coke, you will get osteoporosis. That means your bone all will become powdery slowly. The stiffness goes away. Bone will become powdery. They know about it. But how generation after generation, they don't know. Some people after they get osteoporosis, they will tell their children, don't drink. That's a very slow process of learning in the society. Like how cigarette smoking has decreased. A very slow process. How many lives have costed? So like this, so many things have been introduced. Eating, in one thing, in sleeping also. Excess sleeping, unregulated sleeping. Regulated sleeping means you have to sleep at the right time. So research findings are there today. The other day somebody was telling me that my grandmother is 92 years old. She has no health problem at all. Then I asked, why do you think it is so? Then that person said, I have never seen her. Every day she eats at the right time, sleeps at the right time. There won't be any change. What time she sleeps, what time she wakes up. What time she eats, that's all. This is the secret. So our biological clock, we can't simply, do whatever we want with this body. It's a machine. So there is a regulation. What time you should sleep. You will definitely get disturbed in spiritual life if you sleep one day at 9 o'clock, another day at 9:30, another day 11 o'clock, another noon. It will spoil. Krishna says, Yuktahara viharasya. If you don't have regulation in sleeping, so every devotee should have proper sleep management. It's a part of one's life. No management means, if you don't manage, let's say this temple you don't manage, what will happen? Chaos will be there. Same way, if you don't manage your body will be in chaos. If you don't manage your eating, it will be in chaos. If you don't manage your sexual force in the body, there will be chaos. So even though these things are to dealing with the mind and body, just see how important it is for us to, manage these things properly for a good spiritual foundation, for a good spiritual life. Brahmacharya, full direction is given, what one should do, what one should not do. One should not think that I am a brahmachari because I have no attraction for opposite sex. That is for who does not have attraction for opposite sex? A sannyas also has, sannyasi also has. The fourth stage of sannyas, Paramahamsa, he is free from that force in his system which attracts. In everybody else, that force that attracts is there. So therefore, rules and regulations are there to deal with that force from the subconscious. There are rules and regulations. One has to, in the modern language you say subconscious. In the other, in our Vedic language, we should understand there are deep vasanas inside us. The deep vasanas inside which you cannot access. It just surfaces up. Only when it surfaces up as a Vega, you know it is there. Otherwise it is there. You cannot see. So when you view our body, we should always understand that there are a lot of vasanas inside me. Not that I am aware of all those vasanas. According to Kala, those vasanas just fructify. At different time, guna, kala, karma, it comes. Sexual force, it comes. So it is not that today I don't have a sexual force, so I will be a brahmachari. What is the guarantee it will not be there after 10 years? That is not the reason you remain a brahmachari. The reason and the confidence for remaining a brahmachari is because I have learnt how to deal with this force. Once you know how to deal with the force, whether it is 1 unit or 10 unit, does not matter. The method is same. The principles of brahmacharya, if you follow, it is about following. It is about following the instructions. It is the power of the following the instructions that overcome Maya. If one is a speculator, one is not directed, one does not have self-control in managing, sleeping, eating and all these things, then there is no use. Brahmacharya one day, it will go away. It's just the right time when the Kala, the force comes, you'll be off. Your mind, you cannot hold your mind. Unless you practice self-control, unless you practice this, the principles are same. Whether you have a little force now, or let's say 5 years from now, the bija will fructify and a big force will come. Doesn't matter, let the big force come. But by then you are already equipped with how to deal with it. Equipped, what is the meaning of equipped, how to deal with it? Not about knowledge. You are equipped with instructions, techniques, skills. By knowledge, a brahmachari should not try to control sexual force. By knowledge about sexual force. Because that knowledge is just, you have to have faith in Prabhupada's instructions. You have to have faith in what the Shastra has said. With that faith, that power will come. If you go according to your knowledge, because your knowledge is not perfect, a Paramahamsa's knowledge is perfect, his perception is perfect, so you cannot go by analyzing your perception. Oh, I will, purify my perception and I will look at it. Look at the sense object. Don't struggle to purify. Brahmacharya means struggling to learn how to ignore this force. How to ignore this force inside, how to ignore this force, cause of this force outside. How to ignore as much as possible. You cannot ignore everything because it's in your body. You have to respond to it as much as possible. So if one understands one's goal, I want to be a successful brahmachari, means he should be a successful person. He should be a person who lives from top to down. Top to down means He lives according to the Shabda he has received from his Guru. What I should do, what I should not do. He is situated in knowledge and he does not speculate. Speculator also cannot, very difficult. One who is speculating, who has no basis, why I should do something, why I should not do that something. Speculators, they find a reason. Oh, now I am convinced, so I can do it. And continuously he is trying to convince himself, intellectual reasons, so many reasons why I should not indulge in sex. It will not work. That is a slow process. Shravanam, you go on hearing your subconscious. Simultaneously, two things are happening. Knowledge is built up, but knowledge is not not the force that helps a brahmachari to control senses. Okay, he does not have full knowledge. So knowledge cultivation is going on. That's one process. But when encountered with an urge, it is not knowledge. When you are encountered with an urge, it is what? Faith in following Guru's instruction. I don't understand why I should control. I don't want to know all this. I don't understand, but I have been told I'll control. Then, so that we should understand that one brahmacharya means this is a process. And knowledge, fulfillment of that knowledge will happen after the entire process. What happened to the clock here? Not working. That fulfillment of purification, all those things happens, and pure perception of women, opposite sex, all these things will take time. So if you don't know the process itself, then you keep confused. Oh, no. Either you go on struggling, you think, no, I am still attracted, so I should marry. What are you talking? Everybody is attracted. That is not the reason. Or if somebody says, I am not attracted, so I want to be a brahmachari. That is also nonsense. He should say, I know the rules and regulations of brahmacharya, I am trying to get over it, and 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, I have practiced, I know the skill of it, I want to remain a brahmachari. It will work. Because this principle of brahmacharya is there not only for brahmachari, it is there for grihasthas at all, also. It is nothing to do with brahmacharis alone. Prabhupada said, my grihasthas are also brahmacharis. So in the eyes of Prabhupada, it doesn't make much difference. You become a good follower of the principles given by Srila Prabhupada, whether you become a brahmachari or grihastha, does not matter. You should become an obedient, non-speculating follower of Bhakti Yoga. The principles of Bhakti Yoga should be followed as a good disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Any questions? Yes.
Prabhu, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this force of lust, it destroys both Gnana and Vijnana. And we are giving the example of fourth stage of sannyasa, where that signal in the brain, that will be. So when it will, how do you understand? When it exactly the Vijnana is really,
when the Vijnana happens.
Yeah, yes ma'am.
When you cannot say, it happens. When time, nobody can say. Actually, real freedom from sexual attraction can happen only when you are attracted to the deities of Radha and Krishna. When you are attracted to them, then you will give up the attraction for flesh. Ananda Chinmay Sadujjala Vigrahasya, the transcendental deity means it's not the stone. You have to understand what your gross eye sees and what the Shastras say you should see and what the Shastra says that the deity is. So once your perception becomes pure, then you are in another realm. Your sense of seeing is another realm. Another substance, spirit is touching you. At that time, automatically these attractions will not be illusory attractions. Now, you see, one is, now when you have attraction, when you don't have a positive attraction, you have to tell your mind, oh, this is flesh and this is not Satchidananda body. All this you have to tell yourself. But when you are actually experiencing the transcendental form of the Lord, transcendental sound of the Lord, your soul is touching. I'm not even saying experiencing. Your soul is touching. You will see that the taste will start going down for these things. That is the process. Ultimately, Lord has to free oneself. Paramatma is seated in the heart. Paramatma will see how sincere you are in struggling. And then He will free you from that attraction. By a positive attraction, which includes Vairagya. Detachment comes free. Mayavadis struggle, pay for Vairagya. We don't pay for Vairagya. We engage in devotional service, Vairagya will come one day free. Nothing, I'm not attracted. Because it's too obvious. You're seeing the positive. Your relationship with Prabhupada, with Krishna, with the deities, whom you're worshipping with the holy name. All the forces of your body, sexual forces, they're all sublime. They're all consumed in this bhakti. It's a creative force. Sexual force is a creative force in the body. That creative force has very low application to high application. That energy in this body, in the brain, it has got a high application. That is why you cannot conduct, you cannot force, you cannot get vijnana if you don't follow brahmacharya. Because that is required. That energy is required. Yeah, you may have little jnana. Now I am talking about, first I talked about, your question was about where is the stage where you don't. So when you come to that stage of Paramahamsa, there is no lust. Otherwise what happens? Little understanding, little vijnana will come, suddenly lust comes, it will eat away. So you fall, you rise, you fall, you rise. But there is a stage where you don't get attracted. That stage we have to aim for. So Krishna is telling about all intermediate stages. One who has got proper vijnana by God's, according to this process of bhakti. Mayavadi's vijnana will get covered by lust because they will fall for lust. A Vaishnava Paramahamsa doesn't fall for lust because he is experiencing the transcendental form, name, everything is experiencing. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, just half an hour back, you were speaking about gulab jamun, that one should eat. Suppose if we are eating, Prabhu, I want to clarify this, whether like every bit of prasadam, does it helps us, like, it brings about change in us, every bit of prasadam? Or the quantity, like material quantity matters or not? That's the whole question.
Material quantity doesn't matter.
Yes. So suppose every day we are taking prasadam, then sometimes I get this statement that every bit of prasadam is changing our consciousness. So how to understand the point behind it?
Now, every bit of prasadam is changing your cells to spiritualizing it. So it's not that there is a rate at which the cells change. So if you feed more than its change, if you eat too much, what will happen? Then what you can digest? Even if it is prasadam, it will go out, no? Right?
That is known, Prabhu.
So whatever the body absorbs, you can take. That much, If you eat less, no, don't eat less. Take enough that the body takes. And then spiritualize.
No, the confusion here is about, suppose there's a bit of rasgulla someone is taking. Does it have the same effect on taking the whole rasgulla?
Yeah, it is the same. Spiritually, it is the same.
Spiritually is the same.
Spiritually, it is the same. Because spiritually, it is a consciousness that respects prasadam, and that gives you spiritual elevation. And the gross food of the prasadam has a gross positive effect on the gross body. Okay. When you look at a rasgulla, it is not a gross rasgulla. There is a subtle rasgulla in it. Subtle rasgulla in this, even boga, that subtle rasgulla. When you offer it to the Lord, there is a spiritual rasgulla also. So in spiritual rasgulla, there is no difference between one little drop and 5 gram and 10 gram, no difference. So as far as your spiritual benefit is concerned, little you honor also, good. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.